Hey everyone, welcome to the Founder Hour with Pat and Posh. For episode 13, we sat down with Robert Kronfli. It all started in a college apartment with his roommate, hosting a weekly dinner party for friends, and eventually becoming so in demand that it became an almost nightly ordeal. Robert continued his journey in the hospitality space, creating a Venetian-inspired concept, Bacaro and Bacari, along with a few other ventures. You can find these hotspots in downtown LA, Glendale, Playa del Rey, and more to come.
Enjoy the show.
Our first dinner, we served 12 people, and fast forward 2 years later, second semester of senior year, we're doing, on Thursday nights, 72 people, and then sometimes operating Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday out of our apartment.
Wow.
Hey everyone, we're here with Bobby Kronfli, the founder of Bacaro and Bacari. Bobby, it's nice to have you with us.
Thank you, it's good to be here.
So let's kick it off with, how long have you been living in LA?
My whole life, born and raised here. I grew up in Pasadena.
Very cool, very cool.
So what was Bobby like as a kid? Tell us about your childhood a little bit.
That's a funny question. Okay. Physically, I was very thin. You know, wasn't really a big kid. I'm still pretty skinny, but I was like skinny. I had an artistic side of me. I was like really good at drawing. I used to draw a lot, like caricatures and like cartoons and like shit like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was also like pretty athletic too. I was like always like one of the better kids on the playground. You know, I wasn't the kid who got picked last, thank God.
You were the one who picked the last person?
Yeah. And I had like two older brothers too in school with me. So I don't know. I was just a pretty normal kid, pretty well-rounded kid. Didn't get in trouble too much.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
At one point I wanted to be a garbage man. That was when I was really young. Right, because I love garbage trucks.
What's the fancy word for it? Sanitation
engineer, yeah.
You wanted to be an engineer, not a garbage guy.
I was just fascinated by garbage trucks, like the arm and the mechanics of the whole thing. I don't know, I was just fascinated. At one point, I wanted to be a car designer because I was drawing a lot at that time. But I knew to some degree I always wanted to work for myself.
Okay.
Whatever that ended up being, I didn't know, and I didn't think about it too much because I was a kid. But I grew up in an environment where my dad and my uncle had their own business, and I spent my summers there, working there in the factory. And
what was the business?
They had a big textile manufacturing mill, so they did all different types of high-performance fabrics for Nike and Adidas and all these people growing up. So, I mean, summers when kids were out doing whatever they're doing, I was working back in the factory with all those guys and enjoyed it, you know, and got to see my dad and my uncle in action. And then all you know, and my grandfather and his brothers had their own business, great grandfather, you know, this whole thing. So we're kind of raised in a way, and nurtured in a way since we're, you know, pretty young. You know, you guys should have your own business. You should have your own business with your brothers. You know, that whole.
But did they push you going to college as well, or?
Yeah, of course. I mean, preferably yes.
Yeah.
If we didn't end up going to college, it wouldn't have been the end of the world or anything.
Right.
But I mean, both my parents went to college and everything too. I mean, yeah, of course they wanted us to go to college. I mean, I think there is a small part of my dad who wanted us just to grow up to be an accountant or a lawyer or a doctor.
And that's like I know you're like Middle Eastern. Yeah, I'm Middle Eastern too. Pat's Middle Eastern. I mean, like, that's kind of like the Middle Eastern thing is like, you know, my dad always says, you know, I didn't have an opportunity to go to school. He only went, I think, to like 4th or 5th grade. Yeah. But, you know, it wasn't because of his choice. It was like, you know, they were growing up in Lebanon during the Civil War.
Right.
You know, for him, it's like, Posh, you're in America. You got to go to college. You have to go to grad school. Like, even a bachelor's is not even enough. So it's interesting that you say that. That your parents obviously they wanted you to go, but they were still okay with the fact that if that wasn't going to happen, you'd still be okay.
Yeah, they definitely nurtured our entrepreneurial side more. I mean, even when I was a kid, like in 5th or 6th grade, I was starting to run my own businesses as a kid.
Yeah.
Just naturally. I had a candy store in 5th grade. I was slinging candy on Fridays to all the kids. Baseball cards. I had this whole little shop that they let me run in a classroom every Friday that had baseball cards, candy, puzzles, Legos, and like all this stuff that I'd sell to kids. I also would tape wrestling videos, pay-per-view stuff, and record them and rent them out, kind of like Blockbuster. I was influenced by Blockbuster as a kid.
Yeah.
And I would get in trouble.
Those were the wrestling days, right? Like
those were the wrestling days, the golden era
King,
of WWF. Yeah.
Undertaker, and
it was huge. It was huge, and luckily I had parents who didn't check the pay-per-view bill.
Amazing.
So my brothers and I would order it, and I would record it, on the VCR.
Yeah.
And I'd take it to school, and with a bunch of kids who didn't get to see it, mostly the boys, and I would rent it out to them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I got in trouble every single time I did something like this. And then
by who? Your teachers or parents?
Yeah, of course the teachers. And then my parents would act angry, but when I got home, my dad secretly loved it, and was like, "Good job."
Yeah,
he loved that entrepreneurial spirit in us.
He probably saw that this was just the beginning of what's to come. I don't know if he was doing the same things back then, but I think he saw that what you were doing and just the mentality that you had would hopefully turn into something bigger, in your adult life.
Yeah, and even like little things, like when we used to go to our beach house, he would make us sell lemonade on the boardwalk. Mm-hmm. He's like, you guys aren't just playing all day. Yeah. That's not why we came to the beach. He's like, we're going to the market. We're going to get everything. You guys are going to sell lemonade all day. And I'm like, all right. And
what do you like? Was he just trying to teach you like?
Yeah. So he would take us to the market. And we'd buy everything we need, and then he'd say, okay, all right, guys, we spent $40 on all of our supplies today. If we sell lemonades at $2 a piece, how many lemonades do we need to sell to make our $40 back? Mm-hmm. So he'd give us like really simple lessons like that, very simple ones to get it going in our heads.
At the time, did you resent that, or you had a good time? You were having fun.
We resented it at the beginning because at the beginning you're just like, what? Like we just want to go play down at the beach,
Right.
Why are you?
How old are you at this point? Like 10?
Yeah, I'm like, why are you making me do this right now? But then once we got into it and started selling, and he was selling the lemonade with us, he loved being part of it.
Yeah.
Then we got into it, and we sold a shitload of fucking lemonade, man, a shitload of lemonade. And then it got to a point where there was other kids selling lemonade right down the boardwalk, like 10 houses down or something, and my dad's like, all right, how are we going to compete with these kids? They came in, he's like, what do? They came in at the same price as you guys, and they're taking some of your customers away. What are you going to do about that? And then he'd like make us think about that. And my brother's like, well, what if we started doing frozen lemonades? And my dad's like, that's a great idea. Let's go back to the market. So, and then the next day we started doing slushy lemonades and selling them for $3 instead of $2, and everybody loved them, So it was just like lesson and lesson after that, growing up our whole lives, and then of course working at their facility.
So you're getting this lesson in business when you're a kid, and you're kind of seeing how it all works, and your dad is obviously teaching you all this. But when it does come time for college, you go to college. What did you do in college?
Well, at the time, again, I have a very artistic side of me. So at the time in high school, I was a really proficient musician at the time. I was playing a lot. Mm-hmm. And it was really my guitar that got me into USC. I would have not gotten in otherwise. I've never been a good student. I wasn't a terrible student, but like cumulative GPA, I'm 2.85 in high school. I'm just not one of those kids, Yeah. And it was like, you need like a 4.0 and above these days, it's ridiculous.
Right.
But at the same time, I was really, really fucking good at the guitar. So I applied to music school, and that got me in, to the music school. And I was a music major, and then I picked up entrepreneurship also and started to kind of branch out once I got there. And, so I was taking business courses, I was taking music courses. It was cool to be in two different worlds, right? Half my day I was with left brain people. Right. The other half of my day I was with right brain people. Like incredible musicians half the day, the other day with my fraternity bros in finance.
I'm kind of curious, what did you think you were going to do as a music major or as a guitar player? Did you think that was going to be, something that became your career?
At some point, like those first couple of years, I didn't really think that hard about it. I was just playing and I was just doing. You know what I mean? When you're just doing and you're not really thinking, you're just in college and you're just doing. But then things started to change a little bit when I was living with two guys. This is junior year or late sophomore year, excuse me. And I was living with this guy Alex, a good friend of mine, and we started having these dinner parties at our place every Thursday night. Thursday night's party night at SC.
You would cook?
Alex and I would cook at that time. So we'd have really casual things, invite a couple girls over, invite some guys over, get drunk. We'll cook this big family meal. Okay, easy. Fast forward a couple months, there is word of mouth kind of gets around. Now all of a sudden 30 people are showing up to our apartment for a free meal.
They would just show up, like uninvited?
Yeah, or like, friends would text us and say, hey, can I bring this friend or can I bring this person, right? And we say, yeah, okay, all right. And then it kind of built to a point where it's now people we don't even know are showing up to our apartment for this free food and this like casual.
So how often, did you say you guys are doing this every Thursday?
Every Thursday. Okay. So then Alex and I got to a point where we said, shit. If they're willing to come back and tell their friends about it, I think if we charge them a fair price, they pay it, So then we took that simple idea, formalized it a little bit more, and the next week we did a set menu, a 3-course appetizer, entree, dessert, for $15. Got tables and chairs, light dimmers, candles, silverware, everything we needed to run like a restaurant, because our idea was, let's not make it so casual where people are just hanging around a couch eating food with their hand. Let's make a restaurant out of this place.
If we're gonna do it, let's do it right.
Exactly. So our first dinner, we served 12 people,
who all paid $15 each. And fast forward 2 years later, second semester of senior year, we're doing, on Thursday nights, 72 people, and then sometimes operating Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday out of our apartment.
Wow.
Doing 70 people every night. Wow. It was pretty insane.
And was that because you couldn't fit anymore, or like was it just?
Yeah, I mean, well, and those years between it, we stuck to Thursday nights, and I mean, we built a huge email list, and we sent out the menu ahead of time on a Sunday night, Monday morning, and people would reserve by email. We started selling out those dinners in probably 3 or 4 minutes after I sent out that initial email. Yeah. So when Thursdays started to get booked like that, we started to expand the days, right? Because actually people would email me kind of pissed off. Mm-hmm. Like, dude, I've been trying to make a reservation at your place for like 2 months. I can never email you back in time because I'm in class. Yeah. Every time you send out the fucking email, I'm in class. So once I realized it got to a point where people are actually starting to get pissed. Not just like, oh, I can't get into this place, I'll get in sometime. Mm-hmm. They're actually starting to get fucking pissed off at us. So it's like, all right, Alex, we need to start doing another day. So that's when we picked up another day, and it just kind of, you grow as the demand grows.
And what was Alex doing at the time, like with his?
So as soon as things ramped up, Alex became the chef, full on chef.
But was he like a culinary major, or was he doing something?
No, he was pre-med.
Amazing.
Kinesiology pre-med.
Yeah, he just loved cooking.
Yeah, he just loved cooking. We both did, but he's on a whole another level than I am. Mm-hmm. So he took on the executive chef role just handle all the kitchen stuff, and I just basically did everything else around him.
Is there any worry at this point of like, we're running this, I mean, let's just call it like it was like an illegal operation technically.
Yeah.
Was there any, and I'm not, frowning down on this, but were you guys worried at all about, getting, I guess, caught or stopped by, the police or anything like that?
Yeah, of course, but fuck it. Honestly. I mean, it would cross my mind. Mostly I was worried about neighbors complaining because that's when you get in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Noise complaints.
Yeah. I mean, we had the cops roll by a couple times. DPS came, the campus security people came every goddamn week. Mm-hmm. It was my birthday every week. I'm just having people up for dinner for my birthday. They come and poke their head and just see a bunch of people sitting down eating and just like, all right.
Yeah.
We get complaints from neighbors. I just bribe them with a free meal. You do what you got to do. But I wasn't that worried. We were never that. I mean, we started selling booze at one point too.
Right.
A year into it, we had a whole cocktail menu. We were making booze. It was BYOB. Yeah, it was fantastic.
Right.
It's a whole other level of legal. It was great.
Yeah.
Bobby, when did you? I mean, I know we've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs and founders at this point, and one thing that a lot of them have one thing that they have in common is this like fuck it mentality. They're just like, fuck it. I mean, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Or if it's illegal, we're just gonna do it. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I think it's necessary to have that frame of mind sometimes, because as an entrepreneur, you need to break some rules, right? To get where you need to go sometimes. And I don't mean laws. I just mean societal rules sometimes, or like the box that you're put into sometimes. It's just like, you're told this is the way it should be, right? And you're like, no, well, fuck it. Well, I'm going to try it this way, and shit, it might not work. But I just think it's a necessary mentality sometimes. Well, I just think in general, entrepreneurs are a little bit more risk averse. I'm okay with taking a lot more risk, a lot less risk averse, is what I meant to say. I think entrepreneurs are more comfortable with taking risk than other people. That's why they're entrepreneurs.
Why do you think that is? I mean, sometimes I know Pat and I talk about this. Either a lot of entrepreneurs that start off, they might not have that financial security. They don't really know what's ahead, but they still have that. I mean, is that something that you think is just natural? It comes naturally where you're born with it, or is it something that just kind of clicks in your mind and you're like, I don't want to do what other people are telling me to do. I don't want to work for anybody. I don't want to go to school, whatever the reason may be. What do you think causes that, frame of mind?
I'm no expert, but my opinion is that it's a personality trait. Like, you're born that way. You're hardwired that way. I am of belief that if somebody isn't born and bred to be an entrepreneur, like personality-wise, like personality trait, and they try to be, it's just not going to work. People have personalities for different things and different talents. That's why a lot of entrepreneurs are never good at school, because they just don't follow rules. It's just difficult for them. It's a personality trait. I mean, again, I'm no expert on this stuff. I don't know what the hell do I know, but I just know that me and a lot of other entrepreneurs that I know, we're all kind of the same person in terms of personality-wise. We're good with people, and we don't like rules, and we move around a lot.
And you have this I don't have anything to lose mentality. Like, even though you do have stuff to lose, you have time to lose, you have money to lose, but at the same time, it's like, fuck it, it doesn't matter. At the same time, I'm gonna be trying, working hard towards something that I really believe in, and I'm willing to lose all that if it doesn't work out.
Yeah. I mean, as you kind of grow older, I'm not old, but you know what I mean. As you get more years into your career, you get much better at
as you're seasoned.
You get much better at assessing risk.
Right.
I wouldn't take some decisions today that I did in college, for example. That's just. It would be a dumb decision.
What's one decision that you wouldn't make again?
Oh, well, I certainly wouldn't sell anything illegally. You know, it's just not worth the risk anymore, right? With employees and everything that's going on. I mean, you can't do that shit.
Yeah.
You know, I can't sell booze without a liquor license at one of my restaurants. Fuck no.
You'll be close.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you just
You're
can't
too
do
high
that.
profile these days.
But when I was in college running out of my apartment, what the fuck did I care?
Right,
you
yeah.
know?
Right.
So I'm really curious to know like how you went from having, you know, a few friends over to hosting 70-something people in your dorm room, like, or your apartment, because at the same time, like, you had never done this before. You didn't have like a restaurant background or anything like that. So you're like learning at the same time. But also there's also, I'm sure, more things than just, you know, the fact that you had someone cooking food and a table set up. So what was that process?
Learning
like?
process?
Yeah. Learning process, and why do you think it was so successful in those couple of years?
Okay. Learning process, a lot of it was from mistakes. I mean, we made a lot of mistakes at the beginning. A lot of big ones. But we were doing it on such a small scale, and at the beginning it was with our friends. It was a little bit more of a forgiving atmosphere. You know what I mean? We just learn as you go. You know, I'm sure you're learning a lot of things as you're doing this podcast.
Sure.
You've been started this, you know, you learn a lot of shit. You know, you just, I'm just a firm believer of, you know, just jump in the pool and learn how to swim.
Right.
You know, you'll figure it out, and that's what we did. And again, we made a lot of mistakes along the way, but we learned from those and got better and better every week. And we're also very passionate and very dedicated to learning. Right. We wanted to get better every week. That's why we became better every week, because we really wanted to be better. And we'd listen to the feedback from the customers, students who came every week saying like, hey, this was great this week, but this not so great. Or we listened. I listened to every single word customers would tell us every week and took it very seriously and made changes immediately on the spot. So
sometimes I think for entrepreneurs and, you know, founders and both, it's hard for us to kind of separate, you know, the feedback that we get that could be against what we've originally thought, and then, you know, some like the reality of that. How did you, you know, deal with that in terms of, okay, I think that this is right, what I'm doing is right, but, you know, my customers don't. Did you always go with what the customer thought?
Tough question to answer, just from a memory standpoint.
Right.
But
or even now,
I would say more often than not. You have to be malleable. I mean, of course, you go in with a certain concept and what you want to do and an idea, but I mean, you got to let that idea evolve. Like, for example, Bacaro, our first restaurant. At the beginning, we originally wanted it to be modeled after a Venetian wine bar, which in Venice, Italy. And those wine bars are very obviously wine driven and serve very small plates, like cicchetti, which is the Italian version of Spanish tapas. Okay,
Gotcha.
So that's what it started out as. But here we are 10 years later. The concept is, it still has its roots, but you can make the argument that it's completely different than what it was in the first year. I mean, the plates are bigger, they're more filling and I'll tell you why. Because customers started to come in that first year, and a lot of customers getting a lot of those small plates and saying, hey man, we're hungry. So we started putting more heartier food on the menu. I mean, if we were so hard-headed about only serving tiny cicchetti like they do in Venice, Italy, we'd probably be out of business by now. Right. They say, fuck it, we're not going to go back to that place. They don't feed us enough.
And I think there's a reason why it works in like Italy and it doesn't work here. I mean, it's very, you know, the society and the environment is very different. Yes. There, you know, it's okay to go for, you know, a glass of wine, have a little small things. Here, you know, especially in the areas that at least you guys have opened, Bacaro and Bacari, you have people that they want to eat. When they go to a restaurant, they're expecting to walk out. Right. They're expecting to walk out, you know, full. Like whether they pay little or a lot.
Yeah.
At the very least, I mean, for myself too, I feel that way. It's like anywhere I go, I gotta walk out full.
I definitely want to get to Bacaro and Bacari, but I'm still curious. Like, you know, during and this was the Paladar days, right?
Paladar.
Yeah.
Paladar. And if I may shamelessly plug, there is a Paladar documentary on iTunes. Paladar. Just look it up on iTunes. It's like $2 to rent. I get a good 10 cents out of that.
And this is about the whole operation.
Yeah, I know. Film student Fall was in there for a year and a half, filming the entire operation and put together like a hour and 20 minute documentary about the whole thing. So
awesome. Yeah. So I mean, during that time, like you said, you would get a lot of feedback. Is there anything that stood out to you to the point that you still remember today? Like, oh wow, like I did not know that, and that really like saved, I guess, my career. Yeah.
Man, it was a long time ago. I there's probably many examples that are just not coming right to my brain right now.
Or we can even switch it up. I mean, like, was there something at that time? Like, it sounds like things were going really well. Like, you guys were just getting more and more people every time, and the demand was high, and people were like getting pissed because they weren't able to like get on the list. Was there anything or any moment where you were like, oh shit, like maybe I'm not having fun at this moment because I don't enjoy this part of it, or something went wrong, and you were just like, not sure of the, the future of it, anything like that?
Right. I'm not sure if I ever had a moment where I was very worried or very scared that we would have to stop doing it. I'll be completely honest with you that from the day we started to the day we graduated, every week got busier. Honestly, but I mean, feedback-wise, I mean, for example, like something that popped into my mind right now, it was BYOB, right? So like a group of kids would come in, like group of 10 girls, let's say, right? Yeah. They'd show up with 2 handles of vodka and nothing else. And nothing else. So they asked me, like, why don't you have ice? Why don't you have mixers? Like, oh, shit, I thought you'd bring them. Fuck, it's BYOB. I think you bring a handle of vodka and you bring something else to mix it with. How the fuck am I supposed to know? So from that week on, I obviously offered ice and I offered mixers at charge. I would charge for them, right? Because I have to pay for them. Obviously, I have to charge for them. And there was a way for me to make more money, added revenue. So it was just, I was dialed in and tuned in, listening and watching every single week at everything. And we would make adjustments and improvements every single week. Or like even with the food, like sometimes we get a complaint like, food was great, man, but I'm just not full. College kid wants to get full. Right. They want to leave full. So Alex started cooking, not necessarily making portions bigger, but cooking heartier food, putting more potatoes and things, etc., to fill up a kid's stomach. So again, we're just listening. You just got to listen, and that's how you make sure customers come back and they come back happy and tell somebody else about it.
So you guys obviously went through school, and at some point you got to graduate and leave school. What was that like? Like, how did you just shut it down? Like all these kids are like really excited every Thursday to go to Paladar.
Right.
What was like the end of it?
It was a little bit not sad, but.
Yeah, it's like a few years of your like life right there. You just like, and the best times of your life where you just dedicated to this thing. So
yeah, it was a weird feeling. But I mean, we continued to do Paladar after college actually, but a different format where Paladar was a traveling supper club. Okay. Where we would do it in different homes. People would host us, different homes and stuff around LA, and it'd be like an underground dinner that way.
Like pop-ups type?
Yeah, we did that for a little bit after college just to keep making money while Alex was trying to find a job at a kitchen in LA.
So he didn't go to medical school? He didn't
go to medical school.
Nice.
And we just did that to pick up extra cash, and then eventually I got so busy with the other restaurant with my brother, and he got so busy because he picked up a job that we just couldn't do it anymore, time-wise.
So your brother started Bacaro while you were in college?
Correct. Yeah, so he had Bacaro right down the street. And what was cool and interesting about it was if somebody couldn't get a Paladar reservation, they'd go to Bacaro and kind of vice versa.
Was it like a similar menu or similar style?
Not at all.
Just completely different?
Completely different.
And like, so I know growing up, like you didn't have anyone in your family like that had a restaurant or anything. Like maybe you did, but you didn't say. Why do you think both you and your brother kind of took that path?
That's an interesting question, man. I don't know. Part of the answer to the question is just we kind of fell into it, and I don't know. When you just fall into something and it just kind of.
But were you guys like obviously talking at the time like, hey, I'm doing this, and I'm sure he was helping you out, you were helping him out, but it just happened.
I mean, my brother entered into it first.
Okay.
I think it comes from just we love to be hosts. I mean, being a host even outside of work for me is like very rewarding. Like I love throwing house parties. I love I'm the type of guy who's a big birthday party. I mean, most of it's I like the attention, but
it's not a bad thing. Yeah.
There is such a great feeling for me when somebody has a great time in a space that I provided and tells me, I just want to let you know everything was great. I had such a great time. For me, all the work involved in providing that service is worth it for that good review. Mm-hmm. That's what keeps me going. And I think just the love of customer service and making a customer happy, which is something we grew up with, something that was instilled in us, is just so prevalent in the restaurant. It's just so direct, at the beginning days of the restaurant, Danny and I were serving every day.
Danny's your brother.
Danny's my brother, yeah. We were serving every day, doing everything every day. So to be able to make a customer happy with whatever I was doing while serving them was very rewarding for me. The work, I didn't mind the work.
You had a direct impact on their happiness.
Absolutely.
And I also think it's cool because, you said earlier you just like being around people. It's something I think both Patrick and I share in common as well. We always want to be around people at all times. That's part of the reason why we're doing this podcast is because we love sitting down with folks, hearing their stories, sharing, opinions and thoughts or whatever. But at the same time, it's a lot of hard work. It's not all fun and games. Yeah. So you bring up listening, and Pat and I have been doing a lot of listening to our listeners. And something that they've asked us is, hey, you guys always talk about the successes. You guys always talk about, this person sold the company for X $100 million.
Right.
But they're like, we know that stuff. We know it's going to be some happy ending that you guys are sitting down with them. But we want to hear more about the failures because that's what we're going through, or we're going through the bad days. What are some of if there were any, what were some of your bad days, and how did you keep on going?
Right. And I just to preface it, I think that's a great idea, and I think it's important because again, in this social media age, everybody is just putting in your face positive news.
Right.
The great place they went, traveled, great girlfriend or boyfriend they have, great accomplishment at work. And of course, if they have a bad day, don't post anything about it. We live in this world.
Some do. It's shitty day, but who wants to follow that guy?
Exactly.
But that's the truth.
Yeah, we're living in this world where you just see positive news, and I think that's bullshit.
Yeah.
God, man, to some degree, we have a failure every fucking day, right?
Yeah.
We have 130 employees now, and a lot of shit going on. And something goes wrong every day. And do you perceive that as a failure? Maybe, maybe not. We've had one failed restaurant. We've had one failed food product launch, completely busted. Lost my ass on that. And then within the operation, within the successful operation, if you're right, what's perceived to be successful, there are ideas within that operation that flat fucking fail. Right? But at the end of the day, we don't dwell on it very much. It doesn't feel good. I remember when our product failed that I put so much goddamn work and passion into it, and I really thought it was a good idea. I really did.
What was the product? Yeah.
It was you guys are Middle Eastern, so labneh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I launched a line of flavored labneh, but for all the white people listening, labneh is like a strained yogurt, a kefir yogurt, and I had 4 flavors of it, like a dip.
It's funny you mentioned that because I had an idea like that, and I had written down, this was 4 or 5 years ago, I wrote down in my notes somewhere, I probably have it still, literally flavors. And one of them I remember was avocado labneh. Because
it's delicious.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it was just I didn't think that, and I called a few markets. I was and they're like, yeah, there's no place on the shelves. They're just don't even think about it. I was like, okay, fuck it.
Yeah, no, it's a tough world in that game.
Why do you think it didn't work out?
For a variety of reasons. Our sales were growing, but the food side of the business on the shelf is a very difficult one, very competitive, and it takes a lot of upfront capital to keep growing, which is something we were unwilling to keep doing.
Yeah,
that was the biggest issue. But again, I think it's important to talk about, and I don't know if you guys experience this, but being an entrepreneur can be an absolute emotional roller coaster.
Every minute of the day.
Right.
Yeah.
So you'll have a good day where something like a deal went well or like whatever. Like today is a good day for me because it's going to happen tomorrow, but looks like I'm finally going to reach a deal on a new lease for a new restaurant. And we've been negotiating with this landlord who's kind of a dickhead for a couple of months, right? And it's finally getting there, and it's like, okay, you know, good day today. I feel good. It's good day. It's good that we did the podcast today. But there are days where things, like 10 things can go wrong, or like an idea you had failed, or you feel like a failure, right? And you can really have a down day, and I mean emotionally, like... You know, I'll be honest with you. There are some days where I'm up just fucking killing it, taking over the world. And there are days that I just want to crawl up in bed and not talk to anybody, right? And that's the honest truth. And those days don't happen too often, thank God. But it's real. And, you know, and people come up to me all the time. They're like, oh, God, it must be so awesome owning 4 restaurants. And what a you know, they think it's just a fucking glamorous lifestyle. And okay, there are positives to it, of course, but behind the scenes, they don't see.
There's a reason why it's so glamorous is because somebody's probably doing some not glamorous things behind the scenes.
Of course.
But it's like this mindset of knowing, like, whatever you're going through at the moment, you've been there before, and it's always turned out well. Like, with those days that are great, you know it's coming up. You know you're working towards it. Like, whether it's like, you know, you're working towards a deal, and some days are just shitty because things are like not working out, but you know, like, one of those days is going to work out, and it's going to pay for all these days that...
Absolutely.
You know, so
the highs are really high.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
The highs are worth it. The lows can get really low too, but the highs make it all worth it, man.
So again, your brother had Bacaro, and you're graduating college. You do Paladar for a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, on the road. When did you decide to venture off on... I mean, did you go start working with your brother?
Yeah, right when I graduated.
Okay,
I was doing Paladar on the side.
So, but you were working at Bacaro. I decided to partner
with my brother immediately.
Okay, so you guys kind of went into it together. You know, started helping him with what, you know, the day-to-day stuff.
Yeah.
At what point did you start growing that business?
Pretty soon. You know, I moved in there and kind of channeled a lot of the energy and positive, let's just call them vibes, that were happening around Paladar, and just kind of channeled that into Bacaro. And Bacaro was already successful in its own right. And at that point, I mean, within 6 months I was there, we took over this nail salon next door and expanded the restaurant and expanded our seating, and it allowed us to do much bigger parties and bring in a lot more revenue. It kind of changed a lot for us, and created the platform and the cash flow that allowed us to open up that second restaurant and then keep moving forward.
Was the second restaurant the Playa del Rey?
No, so it's second restaurant. It's our coffee shop, Nature's Brew, which is right next door to Bacaro. Right. This guy, coffee shop, really shitty one, was there for a long time. Ragazzi room. He went out of business. We saw it as an opportunity to take it over. All the equipment was there. You know, pennies on the dollar for everything. We knew USC needed a great coffee shop, cafe type of place. So we opened up and just flipped it and opened in a month.
Nice.
And started going. And we did that with all our own cash that from Bacaro. And then we ran that business for, I don't know, a couple years or something. And then Bacari Playa del Rey came after that.
Got it. So this is like 3-4 years after you graduate?
So I graduated in 2011. Bacari PDR opened in 2014. Yeah, so 3 years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So at that point, you're like, you have a couple different restaurants. How are you guys like managing working between each of them? Like, is your brother handling one, you're handling the other?
Yeah, to some degree. I mean, we just, again, the beginning years of Bacaro were learning the ins and outs of the business, right? The science of delivering that food to your table in a profitable manner, right? And everything that goes along with that. If that could turn into a 2-hour conversation, right? And customer service, and, you know, just learning everything on the floor. Then we opened up Nature's Brew. We started the learning curve was now being able to manage those restaurants and the quality control and the customer expectation, et cetera, without being there every day, right? Because being there every day for the rest of our lives is just not sustainable or realistic. Yeah. So, you know, as you keep growing and things are changing, what you're learning is something. I'm still learning something new today, but it's just a different something new.
Yep.
That, you know, it's still attached and related to the restaurant.
Right.
But what I'm doing right now, I'm doing for the first time also, you know, and what I'm doing right now is learning how to scale the business quicker, you know, and to manage everything from a main office, you know, and to make sure the customer leaves with the same experience today as they did that first year when I was personally serving them.
Right.
To be able to recreate that experience from a main office, very
So
difficult.
how do you scale that? Like, let's say someone is starting, position now at Bacari.
Right.
What do they learn on the first day about how the business works?
So the thing they learn on the first day is just the overall culture of the restaurant, right? Our approach to customer service, what the food is, where the influence of the food comes. They learn about our executive chef, who's a partner with us now. And they learn that it's family owned, because a lot of the vibe of the restaurant is neighborhood wine bar, family owned, very warm atmosphere, warm body language, smiles. We're not a pretentious restaurant, right? And that's the thing they learn on day one. They need to understand the culture of the restaurant and why people keep coming back to us. And so along with that comes, you know, a rigorous training program that involves all those things. At the beginning, I didn't have a fucking training program. You just come in there and I was there.
Right.
And you better do what my brother and I are doing or you're just not going to fit in.
Yeah.
You know, that was the training program. Just come in and follow our lead, right? Obviously, that doesn't work anymore, you know.
Yeah.
So now it's on paper, and our director of operations instills that in them, because our director of operations has been with us the longest and understands my brother and I and our chef better than anybody. You know, so it's just you start to create procedures and systems that need to be there to try to keep the experience as authentic as possible when we were in there. That's what I go for. Is like when we kind of go astray and we have a bad month of service, right? Or we get a couple bad Yelp reviews in a row, or we get a bad feedback from a customer who says the food sucked, or my server was an asshole. You know, that happens. And that makes my heart drop to my stomach, by the way, when that every single time. If I get an email from a customer or anything where they said they had a shitty experience, God damn it, that just makes me feel like absolute shit. But anyways, so when we get led astray, I always come back to, how do we get back to when Danny, Lior, who's the chef, and I were in there? How do we get back to that feeling? You know, it's not just the logistics, it's the vibe. It's the feeling we would give off when we're in there that people bought into. And it's always, how do we get back there? That's what drives everything for me.
Yeah.
Is how do we get back to when the food came out, when Lior's hand touched that food? And how do we get back to when the customer service, when I was talking to the customer or when Danny was talking to the customer? How do we get back there? If we ever find ourselves unsuccessful at some point.
Got it.
It's just going back to the roots.
And at this point, had you guys raised any like outside money to like fund your growth, or was it mostly just from your success at Bacaro and Nature's Brew?
Yeah, we haven't raised any outside capital, and we're just at this point, at this stage, we're still not open to it. We have a great relationship with our bank, who provides a lot of financing for us. So.
Because obviously starting a restaurant, especially in the locations that you guys are in, must not be, cheap to do. So.
Yeah. So we have a great financing partner, which is a godsend. We'd rather not take any private investors. We don't want to have to deal with that.
Yeah.
We don't want to have to sign any equity away, obviously, if you don't have to. So the last restaurant in Glendale was fully funded by the bank. This next restaurant coming up is going to be fully funded by the bank. So it's great because we don't have to go out of pocket anymore. But, there's added risk, of course, of the loan and everything. But we'd rather do that than sign equity away and deal with some asshole who doesn't know what we're doing, you know? If the only way I think we'd consider it is if a bigger restaurant group, like people who were much more knowledgeable than me, right? Much more experience than I have.
More of like a strategic partnership.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If they would come in and I think we would be open to the idea of them buying a stake and helping us grow faster, and putting better systems in place than we have right now to be there to help the growth. I think that's the only way we'd be open to it at this point.
Yeah. So you have the one you have Bacaro, you have the 2 Bacaries, and you have Nature's Brew, right? And you're
correct.
opening up a new Bacari.
And another Bacari.
So what is like? Are you just like looking to, as far as like the near future goes, like expand the Bacari side of things?
I think so. I mean, we have a lot of concepts in our brains, but you know what? People like Bacari.
Yeah, I love.
And
Bacari.
they like the food. They love the price point.
Yep.
We've realized that we've got something good going
There's
on.
just isn't much like it. Like when you go there, you don't get that same experience other places.
Good. Thank you. There's just something there that's working, right?
Yeah.
The food and the price point,
Everything,
everything coming together. It works. Mm-hmm. So we're thinking to ourselves, why would we open up a whole different concept and go through all of that when we can just open up another Bacari when we know people like it? And just from a management standpoint, it's so much easier, right? It's so much easier to manage and open and get going because everybody already knows the recipes. Everybody understands, like staffing wise. I mean, it's easy to promote people and give them management positions over there because they've been with us for 3 or 4 years. They already know how the food works. They know how the service works. You know, it's just so much easier. If the response is still positive, I mean, why not ride the wave a little bit longer as long as it will go? Right. That's kind of how we're looking at it.
How do you prevent yourself from being complacent?
Oh, I think more the question is, how do I prevent my managers from being complacent? I'm just not a complacent person, man. I can't, at least still at this age, or whatever, this stage,
right?
I get fucking bored. That's how I'm not complacent, you know?
Yep.
As soon as we opened up Glendale, it's been a year now.
Yep.
A little bit over a year. 6 months into Glendale, we were like, what's next? Because we've gotten better, much better now, where we can get a restaurant stable and systems in place and the gear is moving quicker. So when we see those gears are moving and it's stable and okay, we feel good here, staff is good, customers, we have steady flow, positive reaction, we're like, okay, what's next? What's the next idea? Yeah, I get bored. That's how I don't get complacent.
So on that note, I mean, I know you're very busy with what you're doing now on the Bacari side, as well as all the projects you have going on. Is there anything that like your heart is burning to do that you just like want to do, or maybe don't have the time to do right now?
There are a couple of things, and really it's a couple other restaurant concepts that I have in my brain that I'm really passionate about, and I think could be great. It just doesn't fit in right now.
Yeah,
it's not the right timing, exactly. It's just not the right time. I do like, this is on a side note, I love real estate investment as well. I'd like to be able to do more of it. This house that we're sitting in right now, it was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath piece of shit. And, I turned it into a 3-bed, 3-bath and redid the whole thing. I designed the restaurants. I love design, so I designed this whole house. So that's a real passion of mine too, but not as much as the restaurants though. Again, I just like staying active. Yeah. I had extra time, so I decided to put it into this house and spend my 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. here at this house with the contractor and taking care of that before I started my day with the restaurants. I just like to be active. Yeah. I get bored. I don't know what the fuck to do with downtime. I don't know about you guys.
I mean, yeah, same here.
Like people tell me, or like my girlfriend will tell me, like, why can't you just sit and relax for 1 hour on the couch? Yeah. And I'm just like, because that's boring.
And at some point, there's always something to do. So anytime you're in that position, you just kind of fall back on like, oh, but I could be doing this, and pushing this a little bit forward.
Exactly. It's like you almost feel guilty that you're not being productive with your time to some degree, which is a fucked up way to think about it because everybody needs their downtime for mental health. Yep. But it's just this is the way I'm built, man. It's just the way I am. I always like to be active. If I have free time, I'll pick up some other project. I'll just do something else, like even on the side.
So let's say you couldn't or didn't do something in the restaurant space, or maybe even the hospitality space. Is there anything else that you would have seen yourself doing? Like if it could be, let's say, something else, what would it be?
I'm not sure if I could answer that question. I love the restaurants.
Yeah.
I really do.
There's nothing like it. It's just that one-to-one interaction with people.
Yeah. I mean, running the restaurants is a serious motherfucker. But I'll tell you, it's worth it when you walk in on a Friday night, okay, and the restaurant is packed, and the energy's there, the music's on, people are laughing, right? It's
drinking
loud.
that endless sangria.
Yeah, endless, the bottomless sangria.
Endless.
Yeah, you see the food flying out of the kitchen, right? There's action in the kitchen. You see the bartender pushing out drinks. Like, that is so fucking satisfying to see that action and people having fun in there. It's worth it for me. That is worth it for me. And I love that feeling. Again, I love the feeling of being a host. And if people are having fun because of something I'm providing, that is the most important thing to me. That is the most rewarding thing for me. Honestly, I don't see myself doing anything else really at this point.
Yeah.
I'm open to the idea of not being into the restaurant business for the rest of my life. Okay, whatever. But I'm also open to the idea of being in hospitality for the rest of my life also.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just kind of whatever happens. I take it project at a time, you know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I want to end with this. There's a question that, and I'm laughing because Pat's going to laugh when I ask this. There's a question that Guy Raz asks on how I built this, an episode that he has. Luck? Is it luck or is it skill? But the way he says it, every time he'll stutter as if he's never asked that question before. So I'm going to try and...
Yeah.
Is it? So I'm going to ask you, Bobby, the success that you've had so far, do you attribute it to luck or to skill?
Right. I think it's a combination of both. We've definitely gotten some serious lucky breaks, just like lucky timing mostly. But again, you put yourself in the position to be lucky. If you're sitting on the couch all day, you're never going to get lucky.
100%.
Right? You got to put yourself in the position to receive that luck. But at the same time, anybody who has somewhat success in their career and doesn't attribute any of it to luck, I just think is an egomaniac.
Yeah.
That's just bullshit. It might be 80% hard work, but there's always a luck factor.
Yeah.
We were extraordinarily lucky to get that Americana space, timing wise.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of course, our hard work
got you there. Yeah.
Got us in the position to even be considered to be in that lucky situation, if that makes sense.
And it'll probably only get easier as you build experience, as you have, more, there's more credibility,
Yeah. But it was a lucky interaction and very out of the blue phone call that got us in that space at the right time to get it. Yeah. It was very lucky. So I think it's a combination of both. Yeah. I think it's a combination of both.
Yeah. Totally.
But I would say, and I would warn, don't count on luck, because it won't take you very far on its own. That's for sure. Yeah.
Well, Bobby, it's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you.
You've obviously killed it so far, and we can't wait to see you continue to kill it. As I said before, I absolutely love Bacari, and I go there all the time. We both do. Yeah. So thanks again for the conversation, and all the best.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.